I'm Jeff Gibney from Prairie Steel, and I'm in the farm building sales. Today, I'm going to take you around and show you our screw pile base tube system. Basically, this consists of the screw pile guy coming in, running the piles into the ground. Once that's done, he's going to cut the screw piles off and get them all relatively level. Then the next step is we're going to put what's called a pile cap on. We're going to get those all leveled out. Once he's got those all leveled out and welded on, the final process is to put the base tube down. Once the base tube's down, squared up and welded down, you're ready for the construction of your new Prairie Steel building. Follow me and we'll see how this process starts. So here we have one of our screw piles that we use for the screw pile base tube system. This is what we refer to as a 5-inch screw pile. As you can see, it's got a couple of helixes on it. This one is 1/2 inch thick. The pile itself is 20 feet long. Now the reason we go with 20 feet is we try to get them in the ground approximately, as deep as we can, 18, 19 feet, and then we cut off the last little bit for them to put the pile cap inserts into. This particular pile is made to torque up to about 30,000 pounds, which is 90 kips. So 30,000 pounds torque is a lot of torque. So once that thing's in the ground, you are not going to pull it out. So hopefully that explains the fundamentals of a screw pile and what it is. For the screw pile base tube system, all you need to do is get some level ground, and which requires either scraping it all down to level and maybe building up a corner or one side of it. But get it basically level, doesn't have to be 100%. And then the screw pile guy comes in and he does his magic, which we just saw. So we got no forms to go up, we have no concrete to pour, we have no concrete to source, we have no concrete guys required to do the job. Essentially, the screw pile guy comes in, does it all, puts the screw piles in the ground, fast, efficient, and usually it's relatively considerably cheaper than pouring concrete. So, once the screw pile's in the ground, and we're going to pretend this is the screw pile that is in the ground, and it's cut off to the appropriate height, roughly the same as all the other screw piles, what we do is put what's called an insert in. And the insert is this piece here, welded onto this plate, which I call a pile cap. So this gives us the ability to slide the pile cap inside the screw pile so we can move it up or down if we're out, say, 1/2 to 1 inch. Normally, there's a little bit of deflection in the base tube and stuff, but normally there's not much play. So once he determines where it needs to be, let's say it's here, he'll weld that into position, and once that's welded into position, the last piece is to put the base tube on top of this, get it all squared up, and weld the base tube down to this. Okay, so here we have a short piece of base tube. I'm using this just generally to explain why this piece of angle iron is on the base tube. And essentially the purpose of that is so that when the builder comes along and puts your cladding on the outside of the building, he has something to set it onto, and which will make the whole building level all the way across. Your sheeting is going to sit on there like this, or like this, and so it's going to keep all your sheeting level all the way through the building, and it gives the builder something to put a bottom screw into. The other reason, now let's pretend this is a piece of 2-inch thick styrofoam SM. If you're going to heat the building, it gives you the ability to dig a trench, put your styrofoam in the bottom underneath, and that would go down approximately 18 inches to 2 feet, and it gives them something to screw that styrofoam to, and also to keep it in place. The other part of the base tube that is crucial is these bolts here. You'll notice there's only 2 in this one. A lot of them will have 4, but the purpose of this is it allows us to set the column down, which has a piece of flat plate on it with holes in it. Your column is going to sit on top of your base tube. We bolt the columns down, and that essentially is your wall, which goes up to your trusses, which we'll see in a later video. So essentially, at the end of the day, it boils down to basically 4 steps. Number one is they survey out the piles and where they have to go. Number two, they actually put the piles in the ground. Number three is they basically cut and get them as level as they can and weld the pile caps on. And then the fourth step is to put the base tube down, which essentially at the end of the day makes it your finished foundation where your columns drop down onto the base tube and screw down, and then the construction of your new building begins. Okay, so once the base tube's welded down, the building's built on top of it, the next stage may or may not be concrete. So basically what a lot of farmers do, customers do, is on the outside of that base tube, underneath that piece of angle iron, the top half holds the metal cladding, the bottom half they will put styrofoam SM down in the ground, usually anywhere from 18 inches to 2 feet. Two reasons for this. If you're heating it, it keeps the heat from your slab inside the building, and it also keeps rodents from tunneling underneath of your base tube. Now, if you're just doing a cold storage building, you don't have to use styrofoam. You can use something like 1/2 to 3/4 inch treated plywood. That'll do the same thing. So once you've got that down, and you don't have to put anything down if you don't want, for that matter, you can just bank the dirt against it when you're done. But now when it comes to finishing the concrete on the inside of the building, usually there is a slight trough, like a thickened edge, where that is going to pour underneath the base tube, up against said plywood or styrofoam or nothing for that matter. And it's going to go halfway up the base tube so that it's the same height on the inside of the base tube as that piece of angle iron is on the outside of the base tube. And that's considered the floor line. So then they might trough down 6-8 inches. So you got a nice, maybe 10 inches for a nice thickened edge underneath the base tube, then halfway up the base tube, and then basically coming to whatever you're going to have in your shop for heat, like 6-7 inches of concrete or 8 inches of concrete. It's totally up to the customer.